Hi, it's Mike DelSignore, Massachusetts OUI lawyer. In today's video, I want to talk about what happens if you're arrested for OUI and the case is going to be heard in the Falmouth District Court. Falmouth is a court I've been appearing at for a long time. I've been doing this since 2001. I've had many cases in Falmouth. I've had a lot of success there. So let me start with some of the basic questions people have when arrested for OUI. One, is jail time likely? No. First offense OUI, you're realistically not going to jail. You're going to get probation. If you're found guilty, take a plea. So that's not a likely option. Two, you're charged with a misdemeanor offense. As long as no one was seriously injured and it's your first offense or even a second offense, that's a misdemeanor. So with that out of the way, how can you get back on the road? If you refused a breath test, you're not going to be able to drive for a while. It's a 6-month suspension. But if you're found not guilty, there's a presumption of reinstatement. So you might be able to get back on the road prior to the 6 months, but it generally takes about 4 or 5 months to get to trial. So it's most of the time you'll have to get a ride to work. But the benefit is it's probably not a very strong case against you. If there's no breathalyzer, it's a very subjective case. So you can win this case. I'm going to go over the defenses to these cases, but let me first finish up about the license. If you absolutely need to drive, you could resolve the OUI and get a hardship if you refuse, but you're going to need a letter from work. So if you refused, you're in a more difficult position with driving immediately, but a better position with winning your case, avoiding the OUI conviction. Now, if you took the breath test and you're over 0.08, you can get your license back fairly quickly. 30 days to get your full license back. So while we're fighting the case, you'll be driving. However, there's additional evidence they have against you. They have a breathalyzer. So we got to try to work to get that excluded. There's a lot of ways to get these tests excluded. So don't assume you can't win the case if you took a breathalyzer and is over 0.08. So what are the defenses to OUI cases? And this applies whether you took a breathalyzer or refused. We try to minimize the bad driving, try to show that your driving is not highly indicative of somebody under the influence, that maybe it was a momentary lapse of attention, the lane violation. Maybe you're on your phone, you're talking to somebody in the car. So looking at the GPS. So there's a lot of explanations for driving that have nothing to do with alcohol. Then when the officer comes to the car, they're looking for certain clues, they're indicated, so to speak, in their training. They look for how you pull over. Once the blue lights go on, do you pull over quickly? When the officer comes up to the car, how do you handle your license and registration? Do you have any difficulty providing it, or do you provide it immediately? Then when you're asked to get out of the car, how do you get out? Do you lean on it, use it for balance? All these are indicators that might not even be mentioned in your report, but I'll go over them with you. They're sort of clues that we can use to show that you were not under the influence of alcohol. When you're asked to do these field sobriety tests, keep in mind these are difficult tests. They don't really predict whether someone's under the influence of alcohol. When they were studied back in the early 80s, they were found to be about 60% reliable on their own. So they're not tests that demonstrate you're impaired. So keep in mind there are a lot of reasons why maybe you didn't perform perfectly on the test unrelated to alcohol. In a lot of cases, when I look at your report on the field sobriety test, I'm going to show that you did well on these tests, that you really substantially complied, that the observations of the officer are very minor, that maybe the officer didn't perform the test correctly. Many officers don't actually score these tests correctly or don't understand all the clues, all the indicators. So keep that in mind, that what's written in the report on the field sobriety test is going to be different from how it comes out when I cross-examine the police officer. I've been questioning and cross-examining police officers for years, so I know what to look for in reports, how to minimize the clues they're looking for, and how to show that there's nothing major indicating that you were impaired by alcohol. For example, in the one-leg stand, a lot of times it might not be mentioned in the report how long your foot was up. So if it's not in the report, most officers will agree on cross-examination you had it up for 30 seconds. A lot of times there's no indication of how high you had your foot up. It's supposed to be 6 inches off the ground. It's another thing you might have done correctly. The 9-step walk and turn, there's 8 different clues. Often you see in reports, missed heel to toe, stepped off line. That leaves a lot of things you did well on the test that the officer will admit on the witness stand and will show that you weren't impaired. Because our goal, what we're trying to do is to show all the things you did right and say that's inconsistent with somebody under the influence. Because it takes very little evidence to arrest somebody. So when you got arrested, it was based on a probable cause standard. In court, it's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a very high standard of proof. So keep that in mind. If you're arrested for OUI and the case is going to be heard in Falmouth District Court, that's a court I've had a lot of success in, and you have a good chance of being found not guilty. So keep that in mind. There's also a little more flexibility sometimes with DAs in that court, so there's different ways we could potentially resolve your case favorably. Call, text me anytime if you have any questions, 781-686-5924. My passion's helping people make the best decisions for themselves. When charged with OUI, I can help you. Been doing it since 2001. I love this work, and I'll help you understand the license consequences, the defenses to your case, and the best way to resolve your case.